let's talk to Joey from California. Joey is a friend of mine, actually. I don't think you've called the show before, Joey. Hey, Joey, what's going on?
Hey, how you doing?
Doing good. Good to hear your voice, man. Hope you're doing okay. I did not expect you to call in tonight, but I'm assuming, well, I know what you're going to talk about because I got the screen here, but you want to talk about veganism because I know you're a vegan. So
yeah. Well, usually I'm at work right now, but there's been a bit of a COVID scare, so I'm working from home.
Oh, nice. Well, not nice that there's a COVID scare, but I guess nice that you get to be away from people, I guess. I don't know. So what's up, Joey?
That was pretty insensitive, Dan, but no, just kidding. So I want to talk about veganism and intersectionality because there's a common misconception that's going around, or that often comes up in like lefty circles, that veganism is like something for like privileged people or white people or stuff like that. And it's like, I do recognize, obviously, there is a oversaturation of that. But in terms of like the goals and like the purpose of it, there's a lot more, it's a lot more complicated than just like, oh, like we need to be nice to animals. And like, even if it costs more, we should do it. It's like the reason I was originally passionate about veganism is for environmental reasons. So veganism is obviously the more environmental choice, and that's just pretty much undeniable. And environmental justice is social justice. So the connection just seems pretty obvious to me. And then in terms of like the way, the United States tortures the poor and doesn't allow healthcare to people, and the people who have to work more jobs tend to have worse diets, and meat and dairy are subsidized by the government and vegetables are not. And it's just like, well, to some extent, you know what I mean? But in every way, it's like veganism is intersectionality, and maybe we need to do a better job marketing that.
Yeah, I have some thoughts on this, but I want to hear Jamie's take on this first while I refresh my page here.
It can be a bit of a fiery topic, but I think in a way it's quite simple. And a few thoughts. One is that the roots of having a concern for non-human animals deep and ancient in many, many cultures. So if you look into Rastafarianism, you look at Jainism, you look at Buddhism, you look at some branches and some perspectives in Hinduism as well, the roots of run really, really deep and are global and are not a modern white Western invention by any means. So that's one reassurance I'd give, is that the heritage of the non-human animal ethics movement is deep and rich and global. Second point I'd make is that ultimately it's okay to be against lots of different forms of oppression at once, and at the same time to recognize that different people are in different circumstances that might make it easier or harder for them to do the right thing, but because someone's in a situation where it's harder for them to be avoid animal products, doesn't change at all the harm that's being done to the animals. So absolutely, we should be understanding to a variety of different people and the situations they're in and the pressures of their lives are on any moral question. But all we're asking is just don't use that to ignore the suffering that is being caused, because it is another form of oppression, if that makes sense. And that's partly why I quite like this idea of sentientism, because in the same way as humanism, when it's structured in the right way, rejects all forms of human negative discrimination. It says, we're all human. We all warrant moral consideration. It doesn't matter, your race, your sex, your caste, your gender, your age, add to the list, right? We're all human. We all warrant moral consideration. Sentientism does exactly the same thing. It says oppression based on any of those characteristics makes no sense and it's not morally justifiable, but we're just adding in any non-human sentience at all. So we're now saying, all sentient, human and non-human, warrant serious moral consideration. Oppression and needless harm of any of them is negative. So it's quite a holistic way of trying to say, look, we can resist all types of oppression at once. And yes, as you say, they often intersect.
Yeah, absolutely. This question's funny to me because I have a coworker who is vegan, who wasn't an influence at all on my own kind of decision on it. But it's so funny because he just breaks every single vegan stereotype out there. So when I think of the vegan stereotype, I think of I don't know, mid-size, skinny white dude that, maybe is privileged, maybe thinks a lot about himself or thinks a lot about what they're doing, but is just doing it for kind of their own reasons. He doesn't talk about his veganism. He's a tall, black, handsome. Well, I say handsome. I mean, he's handsome. Not to say that the vegan stereotype I didn't think was handsome, but I guess like it was like the stereotype is like the nerdy kind of, you don't think of the guy at the gym, but he's like, he like is a power lifter. Got me into some awful tasting powder, but that's a story for a different day. But anyway, he just and he makes the same amount of money I do, which isn't a lot. So it's like he's not in terms of like economics and stuff. Like I love it that because like there are people like him out there everywhere, but there is kind of this whitewashing of veganism a little bit in the media. Of course, like one of the highest concentrations of vegans in the world right now, from my understanding, is in the UK. The UK isn't exactly known for being, other not white, right? Like it's a pretty white place. The United States, of course, has another higher concentration of veganisms, and there's a lot of white people here too. But like, I'm seeing people when I've interacted with this community that there are people of different places in life, of different backgrounds, of different understandings of why they're doing it, and they break class divides, they break social divides, and it's inspiring to see. And the atheist movement itself, all right, and I've talked about this before, we were pretty bad about this too for a long time. Like if you look at old episodes of the Atheist Experience, a lot of white dudes like, and I say that as a white dude, right? But it's like, a lot of them look like me except more bald. So it's like, we're changing that too. And so I don't know. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I think you're right about, the UK, the US, and the voices you tend to hear, right? Mm-hmm. But actually, if you look at where most of the vegans are, you need to go to India, you need to go to China, you need to go to places where they've, the vast majority of people have been eating a largely plant-based diet for millennia. But you make a really important point, and I think there is a problem in movements where the group of people are so convinced that they're right on a particular issue that they think they can't be wrong on anything, right? So, and us atheists and humanists can feel a bit like that, right? We're so convinced that we know the right answer when it comes to religion and humanistic ethics. We can't imagine that we don't have other problems in our community, and then we can be a bit blind to those problems and struggle to work through them. And I think there are similar challenges in the animal ethics vegan communities as well. They're so committed because they're so right on that one issue that sometimes those communities, and I'm part of it, can be a little bit blind to other issues as well. So there's a real danger when you're committed to a sort of single thread where you're highly confident you're right. That doesn't mean you're right on everything else. Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, too, like atheism, at least in the United States, that's for a lot of people a result of privilege as well. I think for myself, it was a result of privilege. The fact that I probably wouldn't have come to the conclusion that I do now if I didn't go to college, and if I didn't experience the social circles that I did, and eventually meet the connections with people that I did. So I completely am open with the listening ear when we talk about the socioeconomic issues that come up with, switching with to a plant-based diet when it comes to the animal ethics. People are so quick to point this out to me, and you've probably experienced this too, JP. We're like, well, don't you know it's because you're privileged to be able to do this? And it's like, yes, I'm totally cognizant of that. And I want to give other people that privilege to do it too. Like it's not just I'm privileged, so the buck stops there. It's like, well, we can still talk about this. We can still kind of include people of all kinds of backgrounds and communities in on this conversation. But I'm glad you're bringing this up, Joey, because it's an important thing to talk about.
Yeah, thanks. And
Thanks,
I think
Joey.
especially when you think about how you, like in grocery stores, you've seen over the past 5 years, the difference in what's become available. Like there does sometimes require a group of people that maybe are more privileged that paves the way, but the intention is to benefit everyone, and that vegan products are actually taking dents out of these like awful industries, despite going uphill against corporate powers and governmental assistance. Like that's saying a lot. So yeah, I don't like the term trickle down for obvious reasons, but hopefully the benefits start to affect everybody who is interested.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, I think I knew about this, but like I don't know if how many people do, like how much the milk industry in particular gets these government subsidies and meat industry and stuff. Like there's a milk box at every single lunch table I ever went to in my growing up experience in the United States. And it's like, there's a reason why that's a thing. Like there's all kinds of lobbying and stuff for that to happen. Food in general is just a very, very crazy business in terms of how we've organized the systems for that. But anyway, Joey, I think that's all the time we got for this call, but thanks so much for calling in, man. Good to hear from you, and hope to talk to you soon.
Thanks, Joey.
Awesome. Yeah. Hey, I'm glad we talked about that because that's been a thorn on my side when talking about this too. We talk about social justice, like I want to use my privilege to the best of my, like, that's why I have part of the reason why I have this show is so because I know about stuff and I want to talk about it with people, and the stuff I don't know, I want to talk about with the people that know it. It's like, I want to use the best of what I have to offer people the things that I don't know I can offer. And I talk a lot about LGBTQ ethics and stuff and how we should treat people, even though I'm not a member of that community. And it's like, I don't see nearly that same kind of pushback, I guess, when talking about that. I guess because I don't know, like it's still the whole animal ethics thing is still kind of just, it's still a sore spot for people. I don't know. It's different. So I don't know.
I think there's some of it is a genuine concern for people who don't have the options that, they're struggling in food deserts. They're in places where the availability isn't there. And that's entirely valid. And we should have compassion for those people and understand the challenges they're facing. There is a degree to which, because the animal agriculture industry is so deeply entrenched in our social norms, people will look for any angle to try and argue to keep it. So there's a degree of that as well. Sometimes these things are genuine and sometimes it's a bit of an excuse for why, I can continue to carry on as I am.